The question is impossible. What if the most advanced ghost of future warfare, a weapon that shouldn't exist for another 70 years, appeared over the most fortified beach in history? The date is June 5, 1944, the eve of D-Day. Along the Normandy coast, the German Atlantic Wall is a waking nightmare, a brutalist beast of concrete and steel. Its teeth are 1,000,000 mines sewn into the sand, waiting patiently for the tide, and for the thousands of men it will inevitably bring. This isn't just a defensive line, it's a declaration that this continent is sealed. Deep inside the cold concrete of the Atlantic Wall, German soldiers peer through narrow slits, their faces etched with a grim mixture of boredom and anticipation. Their massive artillery pieces, the pride of the Wehrmacht, are aimed low, trained on the churning gray waves of the English Channel. They are ready. Every man knows his duty. They are waiting for the largest invasion in human history to crawl out of the sea. With absolute certainty, they believe the threat will come from the water. Every eye scans the horizon. Every ear strains for the sound of landing craft. They watch the waves, never once thinking to look up. 50,000 feet above the storm, in a different world entirely, two men float inside a bubble of 21st century technology. Major John Elias and his co-pilot, Captain Eva Rostova, sit inside the dark, angular cockpit of a B-2 Spirit bomber. They aren't looking at the world below. They are staring in disbelief at their own instruments. The flawless systems that guide their ghost-like aircraft are screaming at them, a digital cacophony of error codes they've never seen. Alarms flash with warnings that shouldn't exist. Their displays, usually a source of perfect clarity, are now a chaotic mess of glitches and phantom signals. The cascading errors weren't a glitch, they were a symptom of an impossible truth. Frantically, the pilots ran diagnostics. No satellites, no GPS, no digital handshake with their home base, nothing. The entire global network they had relied on their entire lives had simply vanished. They stared out at the dark coastline below, a primitive landscape that mocked their advanced systems. This wasn't a simulation gone wrong. It was something far worse. The gut-wrenching realization dawned on them not as a thought, but as a cold certainty. They weren't in their own time. This was their great-grandfather's world. The initial shock is a physical blow, a wave of pure, unadulterated panic that threatens to suffocate them. But it lasts only a moment. Years of training, of simulated emergencies slam into place, a wall of ice-cold professionalism against the terror. They are adrift in time, a technological phantom haunting a forgotten sky. Their B-2 Spirit, a weapon designed to be the all-seeing eye of a global network, is now functionally blind. Without satellites, it's deaf. Without a link home, it is utterly, terrifyingly alone. They are no longer a weapon system. They are flying the most powerful ghost in history. A memory surfaces, sharp and clear, the voice of their commander from a world that may as well no longer exist. The briefing had been ruthlessly simple. A single target, a single decisive pass. It was meant to be a clean strike, a test against a hypothetical enemy in a simulated war. But the world below is not a training ground, and the target is now horrifyingly real. The stakes are no longer theoretical. And unlike the simulation, there is no debriefing waiting for them. There is no return to base. There is no way home. The fuel gauges offer no hope, just a cold, digital truth. There's only enough for one pass, one single run, before the Spirit becomes a multi-billion-dollar glider. With no way home, their mission is no longer a briefing from command, but a choice forged by circumstance in history. Using the plane's sensors, they frantically trace the unfamiliar coastline below, a shape that slowly clicks into place from old lessons and black and white photographs. the awful, undeniable truth solidifies. This is Normandy. And their new target, the one place where their impossible power could save thousands of lives, Omaha Beach. The challenge confronting them was monumental, almost philosophical. Their B-2 Spirit was the pinnacle of 21st century warfare, a weapon of surgical precision. But its entire nervous system, its very brain, was a global network that wouldn't exist for another 50 years. Every advanced system on board screamed for a connection that simply wasn't there. No GPS satellites to whisper their location. No data links to guide their payload. They were flying a technological god suddenly struck blind and deaf. In the dark skies over Normandy, they faced a stark and terrifyingly simple choice: adapt or fail. Buried deep within the bomber's fuselage is a relic, a last resort for a scenario no one ever truly imagined. The pilots break open the physical emergency toolkit, their gloved hands fumbling with latches designed for a forgotten age. Inside, beneath survival flares and first aid, they find their only hope: paper. Faded, creased, ridiculously low-tech paper maps of Europe. Their primary navigation now becomes a desperate, almost impossible fusion. The B-2's multi-million-dollar inertial guidance system provides a running estimate of their position, a ghost pointing the way, while these ancient charts must be used to correct its inevitable drift. Inside the cockpit, a bizarre, high-stakes ritual unfolds. Every calculation is a gamble, a desperate prayer answered by mathematics. One pilot's eyes are glued to the glowing green lines of the inertial navigation system, a stream of digital data from a future that no longer exists. He calls out headings and velocities. Beside him, the other pilot hunches over a flimsy paper map spread across his lap. With a pencil and a protractor, he manually plots their course, cross-referencing the ship's digital whisper with the faded ink of 1940s cartography. The contrast is terrifying, a ghost of light against fragile paper. Inside the cockpit, the air is thick enough to choke on. The silence is broken only by the hum of the systems and the frantic scratching of a pencil on paper. Every number they punch in, every line they draw on that fragile map, is a gamble with thousands of lives. The tension is a physical weight pressing down on them. They aren't just trying to hit a target, they're trying not to hit the wrong one. A single degree of error, one tiny miscalculation, and their payload won't strike German concrete. It will rain down on the Allied assembly areas, obliterating the very men they're trying to save. Their impossible sacrifice would be rendered worse than meaningless. It would become a catastrophe. Below them, the German war machine is alert. The Wehrmacht's Freya radar system, a state-of-the-art sentinel, sweeps the black sky, its electronic eyes pulsing, searching for invaders. But it finds nothing. Not a flicker, not a ghost. On the dunes, advanced acoustic listening posts amplify the night. Their sensitive microphones are trained on the heavens, listening for the telltale drone of approaching bombers. They hear only the lonely whistle of the wind. To the defenders of the Atlantic Wall, the men convinced they hold the most fortified position on Earth, the sky is clear. It is empty. The B-2 Spirit begins its descent. It's a silent, black triangle, a shard of impossible geometry, gliding through a field of cold, distant stars. For the world below, it simply doesn't exist. It makes no sound. It leaves no radar signature. It is a true phantom, a ghost of a war that hasn't been fought yet. But inside that ghost, the entire outcome of the invasion rests on a desperate, terrifying prayer. The mission, history itself, now hinges on one final, terrifying question. Can their analog calculations possibly be enough to guide these purely digital weapons? But their analog calculations were useless without a visual lock. They had to see the target. The pilot pushed the advanced targeting pod to its absolute limits, the machine groaning under the strain. On the main display, the feed flickered violently, a chaotic stream of green and black pixels. The pod's sophisticated software was choking, desperately trying to reconcile its 21st century logic with the raw, primitive landscape below. It was searching for digital signatures, for the electronic fingerprints of a modern battlefield, and finding nothing but cold earth, stone, and sleeping soldiers. It was a digital god suddenly struck blind. For what felt like an eternity, the targeting screen was a chaotic dance of green static and error codes, a 21st century ghost trying to haunt a world it didn't recognize. The pilot's knuckles were white, his breath held tight in his chest. And then it happened. In a sudden, breathtaking snap of clarity, the garbled pixels resolved into a perfect, terrifying image. There it was, the jagged, unmistakable line of the French coast, an exact digital twin of the fragile paper map resting beside the console. The system, starved for data, latched on to the raw geography, cross-referencing coastline with cartography. Red brackets bloomed across the screen, locking on to the concrete knuckles of the German defenses, the primary command bunker, the nerve center of Omaha Beach, and the heavy artillery casemates, poised and waiting. They had found their mark. The silence in the cockpit is absolute, a pocket of the 21st century adrift in a forgotten sky. Then a sound cuts through the tension. It's not human. It's a calm, synthesized female voice, a digital ghost speaking with chilling neutrality, a sound that has no place in this world. Target package acquired, it announces, the syllables perfectly formed and devoid of emotion. Cross-referencing complete. A relic, a message from a world that doesn't exist yet. But for the two pilots, they are a terrifying validation. Their desperate gamble, fusing paper maps with advanced avionics, has worked. Inside the cockpit, the air is thin and cold, but a single drop of sweat traces a path down the pilot's temple. His gloved hand, a piece of 21st century engineering, hangs suspended over the glowing console. Every instinct screams at the impossibility of this moment. He isn't just following orders, he's making a choice that will forever alter the world below. There are no generals on a radio, no satellites to confirm his decision. There is only him, his co-pilot, and the crushing weight of a future that shouldn't exist. He takes one final, steadying breath. This is it, the point of no return. His voice, clear and firm, cuts through the silence. Weapons free. The command is given. Deep within the bomber's belly, a nearly imperceptible hum is the only sound as massive bay doors slide open. This is not the thunderous action of a World War II bomber. It's the quiet, cold efficiency of a predator. On the ground below, no one hears a thing. No air raid sirens cut through the night, no alarms are raised. There is only the silent, methodical opening of a gaping wound in the sky, exposing the darkness within and preparing to deliver a future no one was ready for. Then, the release. It's not a clumsy salvo, not an indiscriminate carpet bombing run. This is surgical. One by one, precision JDAMs disconnect from their futuristic cradle, slipping into the cold night air. 40,000 pounds of 21st century ordnance begin their long, lonely fall toward a world utterly unprepared for their arrival. For nearly a full minute, there is nothing but the whisper of wind over their fins. They are silent messengers, traveling through time and air, delivering a verdict from a war that hasn't been fought to men on the ground who cannot possibly comprehend the sentence. The first bomb arrives without a sound. Deep beneath layers of reinforced concrete, German officers lean over maps, sipping coffee, utterly oblivious. They are the brain of the Atlantic Wall, the coordinators of the entire beach defense, confident in their fortress. But their fortress was built to stop an enemy they could see, an enemy from their own time. In a single, silent instant, the future strikes. The bomb doesn't just explode, it penetrates. The command bunker is not breached, it is erased from existence. The men inside, the plans they hold, the very air they breathe, all are vaporized before their nerves can even register the attack. Then the ripple effect begins. A chain reaction of devastating explosions tears down the coastline. The colossal artillery casemates, fortresses of reinforced concrete built to shred landing craft and turn the sea red, are next. One moment, they are impenetrable bunkers, the pride of the Atlantic Wall. The next, they simply cease to exist. Their thick concrete shells, designed to withstand any naval bombardment, are pulverized into nothing more than clouds of dust and shattered steel, their cannons silenced before they could ever fire a single shot at the coming invasion fleet. This wasn't a carpet bombing. It was a surgical assassination from a future no one could comprehend. Each JDAM fell with terrifying accuracy, striking not with brute force, but with lethal purpose. One moment, a key machine gun nest sits perched on the bluff, ready to rain death upon the beaches below. The next, it's a silent, smoking crater. Vital communication lines connecting the bunkers are vaporized in an instant. In a matter of seconds, the entire nervous system of the Omaha Beach defense was methodically and utterly severed, leaving the beast blind, deaf, and paralyzed. On the ground, the world has ended. German soldiers, deafened and disoriented, crawl from the dust of their shattered fortifications. They stare into a clear, star-filled sky, searching for an enemy that isn't there. No bombers, no engine roar, no warning, just silent, instantaneous annihilation from above.
Officers scream into dead field radios, their commands lost to the static. Panic rips through the ranks faster than any shrapnel. A single, terrifying whisper spreads from man to man, an invisible, allied superweapon, a phantom that strikes from the heavens. The Atlantic Wall's chain of command wasn't just broken, it was vaporized. With its deadly work complete, the B-2 Spirit banks silently, a ghost melting back into the star-dusted canvas of the night sky. There is no roar of victory, no triumphant surge of afterburners, only the whisper of displaced air as it climbs, leaving behind a coastline forever changed. The bomb bay doors are sealed, the screens in the cockpit now dark and empty. For the most advanced weapon ever conceived, its mission is over. The impossible task they chose, the one they were never meant to have, is finished.
But inside the silent machine, there is no relief, only a profound and terrifying quiet. Their impossible mission was over, but there was no celebration in the silent cockpit, no return to a familiar base, no debrief waiting on the ground. For the two pilots, the true ordeal had just begun. They were no longer soldiers fulfilling an objective. They were ghosts, specters from a future that might never exist, trapped in a past they were never meant to see. Below them, history was irreversibly changed, but for them, the future was a void. They were adrift in time, flying a machine that defied every law of this era, with nowhere to land and no way home. Their impossible strike didn't win the war outright, but on the blood-soaked sands of Omaha Beach, it accomplished a miracle. The fangs of the German defense were pulled, the artillery nests silenced, the machine guns erased. Thousands of young men who were destined to die at dawn would now live to see the sunset. But as history was quietly rewritten, the B-2 Spirit and its crew were erased from its pages. The question that hangs in the silent sky isn't about the battle they changed, it's about what happens next to the pilots themselves, ghosts in a time that isn't theirs. How do they survive?